In this daily drop, I'm going to take you through setup number 1 of my current project that I'm working on. So let's go. All right, everybody, before I break this set down, because in this case, talent is looking camera right, and I have to do a setup in this space where camera left is going to be the direction that talent is going to be facing in. I wanted to just take you through what this space is and a little bit about the setup here that I have. So I'm backing up the cards right now. I figured this is the time to get the daily drop out of the way. I will do, I hope, another daily drop on the other setup that will be done right after this. We still have another day and a half of interviews to do. About 20 interviews. We did 8 or 9 today, so it's now time to flip the key light to the other side, have talent look to the other direction. But it's also important to kind of talk through what the space is and how we're using it. So, of course, this is a camera. So this is our wide. Currently, I'm using the Canon EOS C80 for the A camera and the new-ish hybrid lens, the 24-105 f2.8. And that is actually at an f2.8. So set the base ISO on the camera, both of these cameras, there's B camera over there as well, to 3200, because the C80 and what I'm using is B camera, and I'll explain in a second, which is the C400. You have triple ISO. So there's 800, 3200, and 12,800. I've got it at 32. Not shooting at 32, but I wanted to lift the exposure in the space. So set it to a new base and then drop it. So this is set a camera to 3200 ISO is the base ISO, and then dropped it a third of a stop down to 2500. So we're at a 2.8 2500 with the base set at 32. So that's giving me a clean image. This camera right here, B camera, is the C400. This has the sister lens to the 24-105, which is the 70-200 f2.8. And that's actually stopped down because I find that sometimes when you're shooting at 2.8 on a longer lens, you got 2.8 on A camera and then 2.8 on B camera, that the background looks unnaturally out of focus. So I stopped down to about a 4, and that's where I am. But that means because I stopped down on the lens that my ISO is different. Still set to a base ISO of 3200, but dropping down to 1250. So that makes sense because you've got to stop in terms of going from 32 to 1600 because I stopped down on the lens by a stop. So that math. And then that same adjustment, I went 3200 to 2500 on A. So I'm going from 1600 to 1250 on B. It gets me to the same place, basically. Black balanced both of the cameras so that they're matching and outputting to a small HD 1703, and both sending their signal over SDI. Here's the weird thing. When I was setting up yesterday, really just kind of not setting up, I was tweaking for the shoot today. I realized that when I did an automatic black balance on the C80 and the C400 that they weren't matching. And after resetting both of the cameras, resetting everything up, black balancing with the ABB feature, I realized that one camera was going to the small HD monitor over HDMI, the other one over SDI. And the setup and that signal was different, and that was the discrepancy. Recorded signal would have been fine, but what I was seeing on the monitor was crazy. So because now the C80 has SDI out, I can go SDI out of both cameras to the 1703 small HD monitor, and I can do that side by side, and everything was fine after that. The reason I'm using the C80 as my A camera is because it was already set up for audio. So I didn't, because of time, want to go through and set up the C400 for audio. In normal conditions, it would be flipped, C400 24 to 105 as A camera, and then I would take the C80, put the 70 to 200 and make that B camera. Sound devices, Mix Pre 6.2, that's got 32-bit float. That's my production audio, feeding that into a camera, so we have clean audio, and then just automatic gain control through the built-in mic on the C400. That's camera side of things. Obviously tripods, all that fun stuff. In terms of lighting setup, this is a very long, narrow room, which is a little tricky. So I wanted to shoot down into the room a little bit, which you can see over my left shoulder. And really just using 3 light fixtures overall. I'm using the Nanlite Pavoslim 240C. Love that fixture. It's a 2x2 fixture that folds down to a 1x2. And it has a lot of output. And it has no fan. It is 100% completely silent, which I absolutely love. The second light that I'm using is the Nanlite 60C with the 36-degree projection attachment. One of my favorites, use them all the time. I actually have 2 of them in this space because we're going to flip the key and I already have it set up in another position for that backlight to create separation. And I put a little bit of diffusion inside of the front. I think I'm doubling up 216 in there because I just felt it was a little too hot and the proximity was too close. And I'm generally using these somewhere between 5 and 15%. What's great about the 60C is you can actually, if you're at 25% or less, have the fan completely off. So again, second fixture completely silent. So my lights on this shoot are not making any sound whatsoever. The third light in this equation is another Pavoslim. It's the 120C. So it's a 1x2 fixture. It doesn't open up to a 2x2 like the 240C that I'm using as the key. That's also silent, and that's for ambience. That's to lift ambience in the space. That's burning at 100%. But again, no fans in that, so completely silent. So the rest of the lighting equation inside of here, and before I get into that, I'll just mention the audio. RØDE NTG5 going down into XLR, Mix Pre 6.2, pretty simple in terms of that. But lighting wise, the 240C is bouncing off of a 6x6 Magic Cloth from Modern Studio Equipment. So that's on a frame. I've got some black to help with sound in here and just to kind of keep that ambient light from spilling into here too much. I really want that to do the job in the background. And I'm going to turn these lights on and off in a minute so you can see that. And then my standard, black, white, using the white side for fill here so that you can have some fill. And that's the basic setup. The only other thing to mention are the windows. Outside, an 8x8 sitting just outside of these windows, but I knew because we're facing the sun that we were going to have problems. So we're using some like craft style paper, and that's triple or quadrupled up. But if we didn't have that happening, it would just be completely blown out in the middle of the day. In fact, in the middle of the day, with one of the interviews in particular, it was blasting through the 8x8 silk outside and those 3 layers of diffusion that were tripled up on the windows, and I was still getting a glow. It wasn't obnoxious, but it was definitely glowing. So if we didn't have that, I think it would have been a game over. All right, let's go ahead and turn these lights off. That's the key light, so you can see that. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the ambient light as well. And so right now, all you're feeling is that little 60C that's just creating just a little bit of separation, more on the head. You can feel it a little bit. I might readjust it, or turn it up a little bit. hold for just 1 second, Skylar? No, it's so totally fine. Skylar is part of the crew. You can come in and then I'll just keep going. So what I've got here is, let's go ahead and turn on the key light so we can see that. And there's the key. Okay, so that's the job it's doing, but you can feel this space right here in terms of ambient light levels, and they're a bit low. So the 120C is doing that job. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I think that's channel 2. And nope, it's not channel 2, Dodo. Here we go, channel 4, bingo. So that's the 120C. I have that set inside the kitchen area. It's bouncing up into the ceiling. It's a little bit on an angle just to kind of get a little bit more light into this space. And that's been keeping the levels consistent. And then we're blacking out all of the other windows in this space. So we're controlling what's happening in terms of the lighting. So I think that's the basic setup. I think that gives you a good idea. I've got it. Yeah, this is where I'm going for that don't forget to thing. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Don't forget to, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.